Welcome back to Aravaipa Trail Talk, episode 56. Today, we're chatting with Darren Thomas and Kieran Ney, talking about the Golden Trail World Series, what's in store this year, as we've got two races coming to the U.S. in September on back-to-back weekends, the Pikes Peak Ascent, Flagstaff Sky Peaks 26K. It's going to be fun. Thank you guys for being here today. How are you doing? We are here in early February. Both of you guys live in snowier locations. Are you guys getting out there and running much, or just maybe doing some skiing this time of year?
Lots of skiing. Running where I can. Racing a 50K with Darren here in was it like 4 weeks now? So need to be running a little bit more. But yeah, it's a cool time of year. Just sort of doing what you can in the snow.
Which race are you guys doing coming up?
Way too cool.
Nice.
Yeah, should be fun.
That's
Darren
awesome.
Convinced me to do it. So
Sweet. Well, we'll kind of trade back and forth. Maybe Kieran, you can start off. Tell us a little bit about your running background. I know we've connected a couple times over the years, but at the Solomon Running Academy this last year, and then you had quite the ride with Solomon and with the Golden Trail Series. Tell us about that.
yeah. So I'm 23 years old. I did a year on a NCAA collegiate program, kind of a standard route. And then I left that to sort of pursue kind of more mountain endurance stuff. And this year I was lucky enough to go to that Solomon Running Academy, got picked up by Solomon, and the last year was just a total ride on the kind of Golden Trail Series. And yeah, it's been a pretty crazy season. If you told me a year ago that, I'd have my first international race and that I'd be, in Portugal or traveling to the Azores and competing, as a Solomon athlete and as an athlete for the US, I don't know that I would have believed you. So yeah, it's been a pretty crazy ride, and the national series is really cool because it sort of gives those opportunities to people like me who are trying to maybe break more into the world racing scene, but travel to Europe is expensive. And so having this race series based in North America, I think it was the top three people for top three men, top three women across these four or five different races in the US and Canada. Got to go to the Azores for this 3-day, 4-day stage race with athletes from all these other countries. So Darren and I both got to do that, and that was definitely the highlight of the year. My first international race, huge learning experience, and I'm really excited to kind of just invest more in the series this year and see where it goes.
That's super cool. Being so young and having that opportunity is really awesome. So really excited for you. Darren, how about you? Tell us about your experience, maybe a little bit about your running background. I know you were just crushing it this last year.
Yeah, my background is actually almost exactly the same as Kieran. I ran cross country and track in high school, went to college, and ran for about a month on my college team, and quit, and then started running trails, doing some ultras, and found my passion really lies in the mountains. And it's a funny story. Me and Kieran connected 2 summers ago.
Yeah, it was 2020. You had moved back.
Yeah, I moved back to Colorado Springs, and we trained for Pikes Peak Marathon the whole summer together. We did the race, and my parents came, his parents came, and they saw each other, and they were like, "Hey, we know you." And it turns out me and Kieran were in the same play group when we were 5.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's ridiculous.
Very similar background.
Wow.
And then, yeah, last year, there was only 2 races that happened for the Golden Trail National Series because a lot of them got canceled. Pikes Peak Marathon, which I've done a lot of times, and then Broken Arrow, which I did for my first time. And that's kind of a big local race here in, I live in Reno, so close to Lake Tahoe. And I think they did a fantastic job at putting that race on. They had really good live coverage. It was just a world-class event, really competitive. So I'm really excited to see what happens this year with the addition of new races and with a complete series, along with international athletes coming here for the coinciding Golden Trail National Series and Golden Trail World Series races, which are Pikes Peak Ascent and Flagstaff.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's one thing I wanted to touch on. We're really excited here at Aravaipa. We obviously are putting on the Flagstaff Sky Peaks, and to have it included, we were just excited that it was going to be included in the National Series. Like, kind of shocked. And then when they said it was going to be the World Series, I lost my mind pretty much. It's like very exciting. Like the number of international athletes that are going to be coming here is super cool, and having like 2 races, 2 weekends in a row. And then we have a presence now in Colorado Springs and near Manitou. So I think it's going to be just like an insane September for, I think, U.S. mountain running at that sub-ultra distance, which I think is something that doesn't get a ton of coverage, but I think it really will this year. Does that, I know you guys run ultras too. Do you guys like the focus of the Golden Trail Series being on that more middle distance? Is it more exciting? It seems like they do a great job of the media and the coverage. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's so much more exciting. I mean, people can race more often. They can race more quality without burning themselves out. The media is much more exciting because it's better to follow a 2-hour race than a 6-hour race. You know, people's attention spans are only too long. And I think I don't have a lot of experience in Europe, but what I've been told is that sky racing, sky running, and shorter distance events are a huge thing over there. And in the US, they're not really. And it just for a personal opinion, I just like shorter distance events like that anyway, because for a variety of reasons, but I'm really excited about it this year.
Yeah. And I think too, you look at like how big sports like skimo and sort of the sub ultra scene are, like skyrunning in Europe. And I think so much of that is that people get to kind of like from a spectator perspective, you get to participate a little bit more. They're a lot easier to cover. And you also think about like people watch road marathons, like those get really good coverage because it's like a 2.5 hour race distance. At the point that you're racing for 6-7 hours, you can care about it, but the ability for people to really tune in and really watch from like a spectator perspective, I think is a lot lower. And so I think it's a good direction for the series to kind of make it, a sport that people can just sort of, turn on and watch, and it's engaging and exciting and fast paced enough to where, they're going to be like, you kind of don't want to look away because you want to see what's happening. So yeah, I think it's a really good move for the series, and it's super cool to have 2 of those races be in the US this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. Real quick, I'll go through the races that were announced part of the World Series. So some of these are pretty iconic. We've got Zegama in Spain, and that's going to be in May. Darren, are either of you guys going over for that one?
I am, yeah.
Awesome. And then in June, it looks like there is the Mont Blanc Marathon. You doing that one as well?
No, I'm just doing Zegama and then Sears and all in August.
Oh, okay. So yeah, then it looks like they've got the Stranda Fjord Trail Race in Norway. Then you doing?
I'm trying to do that one. Yeah.
Cool. Get some of those world points. Then Sears and all, where is that one, in Switzerland?
Switzerland, yeah.
So that'll be in August, and then Pikes Peak moved their whole race to September this year, which is kind of interesting. Do you guys think that there will be more chance for weather? I know this year at the Ascent, it was totally crazy. But then the marathon was pretty hot. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy there.
Yeah, I think the ascent doesn't need the move to December in the way that the marathon does because you're down low at like 7 a.m., so it's fine. And then by the time you're finishing the race, it could be 80 degrees in Manitou, but you're finishing at the top of the mountain. So you're kind of staying in that like 60-degree temperature range like the whole way up. Versus the marathon, like there are some years where it is really, really hot towards the end. But yeah, August I think tends to be almost a little stormier than September. So it might be colder, but hopefully like less weather. And for the marathon, hopefully, not like 90-degree weather when people are coming back down into Manitou.
That was brutal this last year. It was a lot of carnage for sure.
Yeah, but you never know. I mean, September could have a big snowstorm, or it could just be really hot as well. And I know they changed it not just for the weather; they changed it for some tourism reasons in Manitou, and then to not also coincide with Leadville 100. It's always been the same weekend.
That makes a lot
Generally.
of sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it'll be exciting to see how that plays out. And then, so a lot of the international folks, as far as I know, are going to be coming over for Pikes Peak Ascent. And then the next weekend will be Flagstaff Sky Peaks, which is a race that has evolved over the years. At one point in time, it was part of the U.S. Skyrunner Series, and it's just kind of evolved a little bit. So we're definitely excited to have people. And then the world final is going to be in October at Madeira Ocean Trails. So hopefully maybe we'll be seeing a couple of you guys out there this October. So Darren, which other races are you shooting for? Those 2 international and then the 2 here in the US?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, the final for the Golden Trail National Series is at the same stage race as the World Series this year.
Okay.
And that was different. Last year, there were 2 separate races.
That's right. So when you guys qualified with the National Series, you went to that one, but you were only competing against the other National Series winners.
Right.
Yeah. And so this time around, it'll be on the same start line as the World Series?
Yes, I believe so. I think it's the same start line, but there's different divisions.
Okay.
So you can still compete as a Golden Trail National Series division as opposed to the World Series.
Gotcha. And is that a team format in any regards, or is it just individual?
I don't think
I'm not sure.
I don't think it was officially a team thing, but I think they made a deal of like the Janelle and Darren. Janelle was the female qualifier for the US who went over, and they both ended up winning the whole thing. And so the theme of the weekend was Team USA. And then I was the token go out too hard and blow up on the first day.
Nice. So yeah, both of you guys, they announced at Broken Arrow that you guys qualified to go over there. Tell me a little bit more about the experience of traveling internationally and competing on that sort of stage.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure. It was pretty crazy. I was really happy that I had my passport because like Steph came up to me. She's our athlete manager, and she comes up to me like right before the award ceremony, and she's like, "Hey, you have a passport, right?" And I'm like, yeah, I've got my passport. And then it was just crazy. It was like 2 weeks or something. Like I got back from Tahoe, and I mean, Darren and I are both in grad school, so we both kind of juggle these 2 lives. And I get back, and I'm just kind of like back in it, and it's like, well, I'm going to Portugal in like 2 weeks, and I'm going to be gone for like a week and a half, and trying to figure that all out. And traveling with COVID too, there's all these like restrictions and requirements, so you have to like try to figure everything out. I remember being really stressed getting over there because I was just like, at any point, like, am I going to get turned? Did I do something wrong? Am I going to get turned around? And made it over there. And then I remember Darren calling me and being like, is this test going to be enough to get over there? And I'm like, I think so. Like, just pretend you know what you're doing. And then we got over there, and it was so cool. The Azores are a really neat area, and like a place that I would never have gone otherwise. So that was really an amazing experience.
Yeah, I'm really glad Kieran went there first because he was kind of the test person, and I just asked him like, what test do I need? Where do I go? All this stuff. So like he said, we're both in grad school. I had to basically fly out the day before the race, and then I flew out the day of the last race because it's a 3-day stage race. It was really crazy, but it was a really good memory. I mean, we got there, they put up everyone in the series in a hotel. We all ate together. We all did a couple warm up runs together, and we all competed together over 3 days and took boats to 3 different islands because each stage was on a different island.
Wow.
Each course was very different, different terrain, different length, and it was really cool to experience that. I made a lot of bonds and friendships with people from all over the world that I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Nice. That's awesome. What do you guys think about just this series in general compared to maybe other ones around the world? Like, do you think this is a good format, good for the sport? What they're trying to do with the Golden Trail series?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's great. Like how we said, it's a shorter distance trail event. I think it's way more sustainable for the athletes to race 5, 6 times if it's a sub ultra distance and not destroy themselves, racing a UTMB series, or I'm not exactly sure what their series is, but doing a couple 200, 300 milers, 100Ks in a year it's a lot. And I'm grateful that I can race this much.
Yeah. And I think even compared to like the World Mountain Running Series, because the WMRA stuff has sort of been the default kind of that, and like sky running have been sort of like the short course thing. But there's never really been like a full global presence, like the Mountain Running World Cup. Like, it if you do it. Whereas the Golden Trail Series, I think, has a lot more visibility. And I think because it's sort of a private organization, supported by Solomon, I think there's a lot of effort into getting athletes to races, and making races really high profile. And so it's like people know like where the big races are, and I think that there's been a lot of work that's gone into that organization, and also just supporting the athletes to be able to do it. I mean, if you like, I remember forever ago applying for like the junior mountain running team, and it was like even if you made it, like you were still paying entirely your own way to get there, even though you were like Team USA. And having Golden Trail sort of be this path to being able to travel and compete and go over to Europe without having to like make that all happen yourself, is really, really valuable, especially for like a young athlete like me who doesn't live in Europe. I'm not just going to be like, oh yeah, I'll go do Sierras and all. Like that's a big trip. And so having the support and that organization around the series, I think is really huge for the athletes.
What else have you
I
seen
think
them? Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I think it's really great for the US too to have 2 races here in the Golden Trail World Series to bring visibility and bring Europeans over here, because it seems like they don't really care about a lot that happens in the US. So
Sure.
if this is on their calendar and they come here for 2 different races, I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. So, like, yeah, I just want to open the floor a little bit because we're just trying to brainstorm. I love what you said, Kieran. Like the visibility, I think, is so key. And I think a lot of that, from what I've seen, is like the investments they've made, not only in getting some of the best athletes together, but also the media presence. They've done like TV shows and series and YouTube things. It's like some of them I think are even on Amazon. It's like all over the place. Seems like it's really building it up. They're trying to create storylines. Like, do you think that excite you? Like being able to tune in and watch this? Does that get you guys pumped up to want to toe the line and go against these guys and gals?
Yeah, I mean, I remember being like 15, 16 years old, and it used to be just like the Solomon TV episodes that they would put out. And some of them were about athletes and some of them were about races. And this kind of predated Golden Trail stuff. But I think that was kind of, I remember like watching that and being like, oh, there's a sport of like running in the mountains. That's so cool. And that's kind of where I first started to like get into it. But yeah, I think the media side of it is huge because I think that's been a really big limiter, for kind of trail running as a sport, I think there's kind of two problems we have. And one is that what is trail running, right? Is it UTMB? Is it the WMRA? Is it Golden Trail? And so having these kind of more, I think, with UTMB kind of becoming the ultra circuit and Golden Trail sort of becoming the de facto sort of sub ultra circuit, with skyrunning and mountain running in there as well. I think having the media coverage and making it something that, people can find out other than just word of mouth or my friend does this or, I think it's super, super valuable. And I think it also makes the sport more professional in a lot of ways in that, people know, like I have, runner friends who are full just track roadies and, they know who Kilian is and they know who like Stian is. And like some of these people who have kind of gotten that, obviously like that media exposure, I think is adding a lot of credibility to our sport. And it's also making it something that people can like invest in and follow along, which I think is like super, super important for the development of the sport.
Any thoughts, Darren?
Yeah, I agree with everything Kieran said. I mean, this trying to explain to people like what skyrunning is or what Golden Trail Series is, it's kind of hard to visualize if you don't have a TV show or just live coverage of a race. And all my experience doing filming or talking with filmers, Solomon does a really good job of making this content. They have the best content creators in the game. And it's really motivating to me to see the videos to begin with and to be able to compete with those athletes that I've been looking up to for a long time. And I think that younger athletes coming into the sport too can feel the same way.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think that that's a big thing that differentiates Golden Trail from some of these other series as well, is that, Solomon supports it, but we do kind of take a bit of a back seat in terms of like it is Golden Trail, and that's kind of like the main company, even though it's supported by Solomon. I think that kind of opens the floor because it's not just Solomon athletes at these races. You've got, I think we just lost Darren. There you go. You've got like La Sportiva athletes and you've got Hoka athletes and you've got Merrill athletes. And it's not necessarily just this like, well, it's the thing that our brand does, so we go and do it. It's not like just like a photo shoot for Solomon. Like it's actually like a legitimate competition that, between brands. And one thing that I've really appreciated with the media, is that like before the races and doing the interviews, like it's like, yeah, there's some Solomon athletes, but then you also like before Pikes Peak, like we were interviewing like Adam Peterman and we were interviewing Seth Ruling and these, athletes from different brands and kind of keeping it open to that. And that makes it feel a lot more like an official championship, which I think is a really, really great move on the part of Solomon.
Yeah. In addition, these videos of these races actually make it look fun. I mean, you're racing fast for 2 hours. Videos of UTMB, like just chugging along, don't necessarily look fun or exciting, especially for younger athletes coming from a faster running background.
Yeah, this is like more pure athleticism involved at the highest level instead of just on the endurance. Like both are incredible. I think both are important part, but they're both definitely opposite ends of the sport. Any ideas? So we are trying to think, how can we as Aravaipa, Darren might come in and out, us as Aravaipa, how can we best elevate that experience here in the US? Because we do have that presence in Colorado and in Arizona. So having like a 2-week stint of like stuff happening, we were thinking about doing some group runs and some other content. I don't know if you guys have anything on the top of your head just that you think would be valuable to you as an athlete or to involve the community or that could help. I feel like we have this one shot to do something big this year with the US races. I don't know the next time they're going to include 2 US races in this Golden Trail series. So any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think just, having a big media presence there, involving the community with the athletes. So, I think sometimes there's a tendency for kind of I don't want to call myself like an elite runner, but for the elite runners in air quotes here to kind of squirrel ourselves away and, kind of not, we're doing our own thing. And I think that week kind of leading, bridging those two events together and, having some like group runs in Manitou and then having some group runs in Flagstaff and, having people come and meet the athletes and have it be, I think having like, oh, like let's have like an athlete dinner, and it's not just like, oh, your team or whatever. It's like, oh, let's get, people from, all these different countries together. I think that was something that was so, so cool about the Azores was that, we were all kind of forced to get to know each other. And now I have like friends in France and Spain and, it's really cool. So I think just, providing the space for people to really interact within the community of athletes and also within the broader communities of like Flagstaff and Manitou, I think will be really, really cool.
Yeah, I think what highlights the North American scene is the communities that these races take place in. I mean, Manitou has an amazing running mountain community. So does Flagstaff. I don't have as much experience down there, but Flagstaff is one of the biggest running places, trail running places in the US. So having some group runs, dinners, just to highlight the trails we have and the community we have would be a great idea.
Awesome.
I
Love
mean,
it.
for Pikes Peak every year, we kind of, the athletes meet up and run through Red Rock Canyon or hit up the incline or something. It's kind of hard the week before a race to try to explore everything, but
Right.
just to highlight some of the goods that we have.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and I know a lot of this conversation has been focused on, like the competition, the front of the pack, all the racing. But for those viewers or listeners out there, like these are also events that anyone can run. And there's all sorts of people participating in all of these races, maybe with the exception of the final, that's the invite only piece. But everything else, I'm pretty sure that there are just everyone is out there running, participating, and that is the cool thing about the sport in general. It's not just the best of the best out there that are competing. It's like a whole range of people that are out there to share in the joy of running and trail running and mountain running and getting out there in the outdoors.
Yeah, my experience at Broken Arrow last year was just like that. There's 3 different events, vertical kilometer, 50K, and 26K, and they happen on 3 different days. And those races sell out completely in like a day. Everyone that I know in Reno goes up there and does it. It's a big California thing, big Pacific Northwest thing. And the people finishing last right before the cutoff, still everyone is in the village, banging the drums, banging the bells. And it's really nice to be able to support athletes of all caliber. Yeah. And just enjoy being out in the mountains.
That's awesome. Well, what else? Do you guys have anything else to add on the Golden Trail series in general?
I'm really excited about that Pikes Peak and Flagstaff double. I think that's going to be interesting, especially because I assume that the Europeans that are coming over are just going to do both because they're already going to be here. They're 2 high altitude races. So it might be interesting to see if people get really tired in between. And it switched to the ascent this year instead of the marathon. Typically, the marathon is kind of the premier event there. So I'm just excited to see what will happen with that.
Yeah. The ascent was the first big trail race I did when I left the NCAA. And it was like kind of the reason I left. It was the big marker. And I think I like finished 5th there. And it was this like, at the time for me, it was this huge deal. And I've always wanted to go back and do the ascent, but the marathon has always been the big competitive race. And my strength for sure is an uphill. So when I saw that the ascent was on the series, I was really stoked. So it'll be really cool to kind of go back to like the race that really kind of kicked everything off, and be able to, really lean into where I think my strengths are. And then I've actually raced Sky Peaks. Is it the same course, the 25K?
It will probably be different, a little bit different. Okay. Yeah, because we have a new staging area this year. It'll be at the very, very bottom. So it'll be the first half uphill and the second half downhill, which will be interesting because the series will close out with two kind of really different races. One is going to be a pure uphill, and then the next one is going to be up with the whole back half straight back down.
Yeah. Yeah. The year that I did the quad bomber, it was really brutal because you had that really long, very runnable section along the bottom, and then you had to climb back up to the staging area. I remember finishing that race, and it was like just slightly over 25K. And I think I remember being kind of mad at you. It's like weird. I was like hiking through the power line, looked at my watch, and I was like, "This is 15 miles. Like we're not there yet."
Yeah, now you kind of understand how trail races work a little bit better.
Yeah, that was the first. Actually, those two races were the first two big trail races I did that fall after I had left the NCAA in the spring. So it'll be cool to go back and do both of them again. Now in this totally different position.
It's coming full circle for you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. We're excited to follow you guys. How can people follow you? I guess we'll put your links, but maybe real quick, maybe give out your handles or something.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm Darren. And then Strava, it's just Darren Thomas. Those are really the only two I use.
Sweet.
I am also just an Instagram and Strava guy. Strava is Kieran Nay, which is Kieran. And then Instagram is just Kieran_Nay. So yeah, follow if you want. It's
cool.
Just a lot of pictures of running for the most part.
Sure. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Best of luck at Way Too Cool coming up, and we'll be following along your journey, and we'll see you definitely later in the year at those two